I would like to start by mentioning the importance of learning multiple languages, not only for talking, but for reading, researching, developing ideas, producing content. As a scientific explanation, you could have plenty. Oh, it probably many benefits related to brain health and performance, stimulating new neural paths on the brain. In my case, I always gave the value for that effort of learning new language and going beyond, learning new cultures on top of that, and manifesting myself in new environments that would only be possible by those achieving those two stages beforehand. What helped me besides my effort was the opportunity I had to be a professor in different countries. I spent many years teaching in the United States, many years teaching in Mexico. I was a professor in Jiu-Jitsu, and I still hold that title as a third degree professor, black belt. Career that I have put on hold. And if I hadn't, by now I could be striving for my fifth degree. And at these moments, I think about, oh, maybe I should have continued. But what I've done in 23 years was solid enough, and I'm very satisfied. Besides, I have made a shift to be active more broadly in sports competition overall, to be able to research more, combining it with my previous experience in the fighting sports as an athlete, as a professor, as a referee and rules director for fighting events, as an event organizer. Studying more every day about other sports and about concepts and phenomena that prove to make sense. That could also be used in other scenarios, because sports is kind of an accelerator of what happens in biology competition, in markets, and so on. So now my dedication is to the research and practice developing athletes as a whole with specific methods and trainings, plus tools that I think about every day, that I research, that I try them on, that I combine, that I remember. It is fantastic to be doing that. Meditation is a main part of it. In a very pragmatic way. Uh, this introduction, especially the one or the part more related to the languages, is more relevant on some subjects, less so on some other ones. Most of the videos I have recorded so far, which are not a lot, but humbly shows some of my knowledge and my research. Were pretty understandable on my three channels: Portuguese, Spanish, and English. However, today I find myself on a point where I have a subject to talk about, and the challenge of translation seems to be unsurpassable. So what could we do? Go around the meaning, and that's all we can do. We must accept it. We can't explain everything from one language into the other, from one culture into the other. This is a conclusion I've made in practice, living in different places, having to really work and be part of those societies, and have friends and relationships with those people. You can't have everything in one place, in one language. But let's try our best to make that bridge, or at least to explore some of the concepts, and maybe you could reach something productive out of this conversation through different routes. It's not only the straight route that takes you there. Maybe you can even stimulate new ideas. Who knows? There is this word in Portuguese and Spanish that would be the best explanation of the term tapas. It would be good enough. Tapas, it's a Sanskrit word laid down by Patanjali, who was a wise man, a scientist from ancient times in India. he systematized many practices and ideas, or let's put it this way, concepts, in the Yoga Sutra. Tapas is one of the main ones, or one of those at least. It's extremely important. And it could be tricky. When I asked the search engines and the AI for good translations, good explanations, because I myself didn't have them in my vocabulary, neither the dictionary. So I found, I'll write them all down as I speak, to not forget any of those during the video. So I found overcoming, I found resilience, I found surpassing, I found effort, I found even heat. And I would add to those, I would personally add to those that go around enough, I would add grit. So we have 6 terms here, none of them is a good enough translation of tapas. But maybe combining all those terms could get us somewhere. I don't know. Still, a better route or a more certain way to do it would be to learn the language, the Spanish, the Portuguese. Go and watch the video on one of my channels of those languages. Or even better, learn Sanskrit and read the Yoga Sutra yourself. Even though there's a lot of content that is zipped, that requires previous knowledge to access through the book. That's why systematizer DeRose, which is one of the great interpreters of Patanjali, mentions that most translations of that book are nonsensical. Overcoming, to me, what comes to your mind? Let's work like this. What comes to your mind when you think of overcoming? To me, I visualize an obstacle, such as a high mountain or something that I have to climb to get to the other side. Once that happened, I was about to fight in my first national championships in Brazil. I was 19 years old, and from southern Brazil I went to Rio, which is the mecca of jiu-jitsu, and where people from all regions met to see who was the best. And there you had a good blend of culture, of races, of styles, of fighters, people from different climates, because those from Amazon, they're like 4 or 5 thousand kilometers away from the south, maybe even more. They face extremely hot weather, humid. Those from the northeast, also very far, hot weather but dry. Myself from the extreme south, cold, humid weather, and completely different cultures. It was amazing to be part of that, fighting head to head with these incredible athletes. So I knew the challenge would be considerable. When I woke up that morning, I looked through my window, the hotel window, and there was it was not a sugar loaf. It was another mount, or another mountain. That it seemed considerably challenging to climb. It was high, and I looked at it as I prepare myself to go to breakfast and then go to the stadium. I look at it, and the analogy comes to my mind. To be able to win today would be equivalent to climb this mountain and reach the other side. That would be the title, the championships. So that's how I set up my mind to face that day. To me, that's a lot related to overcoming. Second word is resilience. My first contact with this word was in the university as an industrial engineer. We had a few subjects on materials, industrial components, and others. We had to calculate the resilience of each material. There was an equation to define how much this or that component could stand pressure, heat, or some other sort of charge without breaking and being able to get back to its original form after that pressure had been applied. To me, resilience is more related to flexibility. And the archetype seems to be the Chinese bamboo. If you don't know what the Chinese bamboo is, or if you haven't seen it in extreme windy conditions, it looks like an elastic, and then it gets back to its firm state and stable. So to me, resilience has more to do with flexibility. Not like spaghetti, not like something soft, where no, that ability to stand harsh conditions, and to bend a bit in order to survive. Third term, the AI and the search engines gave us was surpassing. Surpassing to me, what does it mean to you? How does it relate? To me, automatically, it relates to surpass someone else. I remember when I was very young, a little baby, I was very smart. My brain worked really well in mathematics and memory. I knew all the capitals of the world when I was 3 years old. I don't say that to brag. It's just a fact. Many kids, or most kids, have incredible abilities if they're not repressed. They're stimulated, and that happened. So the adults came and asked me the capitals of the world, and I would say that I would tell them, and I would receive a positive reinforcement. Hey, that's very nice. That was so smart. And I would go to the globe. We had a globe at home, and I would find the country and the pinpoint of its capital, and that was fun. The Formula One races were pretty big at the time, very popular, especially because of Senna. Senna is a driver that could represent. It was a pilot, Formula One, that could represent the today's subject, that concept of Patanjali called tapas. But I'm not even bringing Senna to the surpassing concept. Surpassing to me, and why I'm talking about Formula One in all this introduction, it's because I couldn't read as a 3-year-old, but I knew the numbers. You can easily memorize 10 numbers faster than you can 24, 26 letters, and then combine them in multiple ways in words. So I knew all the numbers of each pilot of the race. There were about 20 something. Therefore, my dad would ask me, "Oh, who's ahead? Who's behind?" Sometimes he would go to grab a beer or something, and I would be staring at the TV. And many times they didn't give the names of the pilots, only the numbers, and I could associate the numbers with the names, And I'll tell them, oh, this guy's behind, this guy's ahead, and through that association. And as a kid, watching those races were really like, there the positive reinforcement comes to, was a good time with my dad. That was some of the best quality times I could enjoy with my dad, was to watch those races. Myself as a 3-year-old, him as a 30-year-old, but we really enjoyed that time together, and that's very important for the kid growing up. For a boy, for sure, but I imagine that for a girl is the same. So surpassing to me is, I immediately associate or relate to one race car passing the other on the track, surpassing the other person, the competitor. How does it relate to you? So far we got overcoming, resilience, and surpassing. Effort. Effort, the energy we put in to building things, right? Many times associated with an unpleasant state. On some cultures more than the others. Mexicans can work a lot, they can put a lot of effort. Overall, and still be happy, not complain about it, not the effort is for them is not associated with pain or with suffering or with complaining, with an unpleasant state of mind. People from one place in Brazil called São Paulo seems to be like that as well. They can work a lot very happily. Considering the places I lived and worked on, I would highlight these two groups of society: the São Paulo, Brazil, the Paulistas, and Mexicans. So why do I bring them as examples? Is that it is possible to apply maximum effort without being grumpy or overstressed, or these are conditions not necessarily associated. And maybe if you think like that, you could start to change it, because anything we're gonna do requires effort. Absolutely anything. Heat is a form of energy. So I believe when Patanjali, or not Patanjali, but the AI and the search engines related tapas to heat, was in that sense. Heat, energy, to do what? To overcome, to be resilient, to surpass, to transform it into effort, right? I added the word grit, but I think with this five we we went through so far, it's good enough. We could leave grit for another moment, maybe for an entire video. It's a pretty cool concept as well, and um, it could be broken down into different equations and to uh, different parts and factors that could be positively explored as well. I have built a whole theory that I will probably publish in my book. Hopefully, I can have a very solid, real, truthful book about all these things. And I have built a practical theory on this subject that I consider to be the most remarkable part of my research so far. It's called the theory of the tides. It is a bit longer and it is practical. Plus, to keep at least the rights of it, of being the author of this theory, I'd rather publish the book first. But all of this talk, it's already very productive and build the basis for us to maybe enjoy the theory of the tides when it's finally out. And beyond that, there's a lot to be explored. Systematizer DeRose and Patanjali himself see and can't dissociate today's subject with another very important one that will be the certainly it will be the theme of next video.